Break out the carrot sticks and natural yogurt, no artificial hormones added. It's time for the Doctor's Nutrition Show. Dr. Lewis and Janet have a long history of helping people achieve their maximum potential. While Janet is a certified natural health consultant with a unique perspective of alternative and complementary nutrition, Dr. Lewis stays current on the latest research pertaining to nutritional supplements and optimum health. Paramount to their educational journey was their trip to China while studying Chinese medical doctors. Dr. Lewis and Janet know the importance of proper nutrition in the healing process and maintenance of the human body. Get ready to gain a healthy perspective on life. This is the Doctor's Nutrition Show.
Hello and welcome to this week's show. I'm Janet Lewis.
And I'm Dr. Lewis.
He is your natural thyroid specialist, and we are located in Texas, but can take care of your health issues nationwide. We are very pleased today to come to you with this week's show, but very first and foremost, I want to say congratulations to Dr. Lewis, who has just published his book on thyroid called Thyroid Sniper. It is a Amazon bestseller, and it is called Shooting Straight with Dr. Lewis. If you go on Amazon and just type in the words Thyroid Sniper under books, you'll be able to see his book there, available as a Kindle download. So congratulations to you on that.
Thank you. They called it Shooting Straight because I have a tendency to cut down to the heart of the matter. And, the book was intended so that people could read it and say, wow, that sounds like me. And, to help clear up some of the other confusing articles and research and information that's out there. Because everybody's different. I don't think one book's fits everybody. So hopefully this is well-rounded enough that you can at least suspect, oh my God, that may be the problem, even though I've been told I'm fine. So one of my favorite questions is, if you've been told you're fine but you don't feel fine, maybe you need to let us check you out and look at it a little bit differently, because the only thing that can actually heal is you and your body. And so by removing some of the problems that can wreck your thyroid and other things, and increasing the nutrient level so that your body can function. But it's all about your body and its innate wisdom in order to work correctly. You can feel better now. You can have those good emotions rather than the negative feelings that you have. There is hope. You just have to go in that direction and hang on and give it the time for your body to make those physiological changes.
Right. That's exactly right. And, go on our website to naturalthyroidspecialist.com and take a look around, and you can listen to the shows there by clicking on the podcast tab. That'll take you to all of the shows about thyroid and all kind of different subjects that we have. So if you don't think you have a thyroid problem, then you may have some other issues that we try to address.
Let me tell you how wide-ranging this can be. We've treated people that help make movies. We've treated people that were in movies. We've treated people from Washington, D.C. and the government. We've treated people that are pretty high-ranking politicians, although, man, that opens up a can of worms now. We've treated people that are nationally recognized musicians. So there's help for you. And if these type of people are asking or seeking out our services, what could that do for you?
Right. But today we want to cover another section of thyroid. Thyroid and hormones. Is yours working right? Probably 80% of our people that come in here think they have a thyroid problem. So we want to kind of help you have some ideas about maybe it is a thyroid problem, maybe it's something else. And if you're on our close Facebook group, as you're one of our patients, and Dr. Lewis mentioned something on this show that you want to address with him, he's available there to take questions also. Just send me a quick email, and we'll include you in our close Facebook group. It's Janet at doctorsnutrition.org, and that's drsnutrition.org. And there he answers questions all the time. We've had different people asking many different things, so thank you guys for that also. But, there are some signs that your thyroid might not be working right. And you can tie this all into hormones as well.
Yeah, if one thing goes bad, then it has a synergistic effect. Oh well, it'll affect this, and it'll affect that, and I try to tie it together because the problem with Google is people come in quite often, the local people, and they'll say, well, I Googled it and I have adrenal exhaustion. It's like, well, yeah, okay, maybe we're going to check that, but many times what you find out on Google is not really what's going on. You have to look at a really big picture, and maybe it's your thyroid dysfunction, but if you have a thyroid dysfunction, it's going to cause eventually an adrenal malfunction, which can cause a sex hormone malfunction. The thyroid being incorrectly working can cause a neurotransmitter problem, which means, your happy hormones are not happy. So don't look at one specific thing, and I think that's how a lot of entities have failed. They have dissected it down to this specific problem, but they don't look at the body as a whole, and that's why I think there's a resurgence in natural medicine, so to speak, or alternative. And it's funny that what we do is called alternative because it used to be what was normal and natural. It's just put different substances in so that your body has the raw materials to fix itself. So I'll talk more about female hormonal health because for some reason they have about 3 times more thyroid problems than a man does, and I don't really know why that is, but men can be involved also.
Right. Fatigue is their number one symptom. So many people just say they're tired in the morning even after a full night's sleep. And that's a clue. You're not just simply sleep deprived. Your thyroid could be underactive. So, and so many people come in here and tell us that too. They just are tired all the time. So how does that correlate to, thyroid? What can they do about that?
Well, get it checked out on lab because it's just too time consuming and too easy to make an error by just guessing. It's funny you talked about sleep deprivation. I'm actually making another podcast about genetically modified organisms and glyphosate and how that creates problems. Well, it's creating a problem in your pineal gland, and we have a decrease in production of melatonin. And I may get into that today. I don't know. But, I guess I just did.
Apparently you did. Go ahead.
Okay. Lack of melatonin, that's the people that sleep very, very fitfully. I take melatonin, although I also take things to try to clean out the glyphosate and, the surfactant that they put with it, which is just as harmful, if not more so. Because the higher your melatonin, the more you stay youthful or the longer you stay youthful. And there's actually studies that said the higher the melatonin, I think it's when you get it above 9 milligrams, it actually is anti-cancer. And it's like, well, it's not that it treats cancer, it's just it allows your body to begin to detoxify. So one of the things, since the hormone affects to a great degree your gastrointestinal tract, maybe you're not detoxifying and you don't have enough proper bowel movements, you don't urinate enough, you don't drink enough water, and that could be another reason why you're tired. But even if it's your sluggish GI tract, that could be from the thyroid itself.
And melatonin is a funny little thing to take. You say increase your melatonin. Some people get very vivid dreams from melatonin, so you have to kind of watch that one. I think I can't get by with more than about 9 milligrams, and I've tried to increase it. But
she already looks youthful for her age. She's looking really good. She doesn't need it for that.
I think it's those crazy dreams you have, though, because melatonin will bring them to life vividly. You will remember them the next day. So that's a sign you may be doing too much of it if it gets to be where they're almost scary, and it feels like you're really living it.
But some people are so living in fear, and this is a recurring theme when people talk to me. Don't live in fear. Okay, you had vivid dreams. Big deal.
Well, I personally like vivid dreams, so that's why
I do too, because I dream of some really good stuff that I will not write a book about because, wouldn't be.
Would it be on the Amazon bestsellers list?
Yeah, it probably would for the wrong reasons. But, I'm okay with a little bit of pain, discomfort, and da-da-da-da-da, because sometimes you experience that when you're getting well. And I've seen so many people bail out. Well, I had a bad day. It had to be the supplements. Well, you've had that symptom way before you took the supplements. You've had those symptoms 60 years. How can you blame it? A lot of people blame the very thing that could get them well. And I had a talk with a really wonderful preacher yesterday, and very, very spiritual. And he said he sees that in his congregation. They may give up after hearing one part of the message that offends them. And he says it's hard, but, you have to stay focused on what's right, not what's wrong. And then, we quoted Timothy where it says God didn't give you a spirit of fear. So the vivid dreams, go through them, work through them. There's other avenues that, by changing the thyroid and possibly helping your pineal gland increase its melatonin, you could sleep better. But sleep deprivation is definitely a widespread issue, and part of it is just detoxifying. So when you start detoxifying, you have to remember, hey, you're taking out X amount per day, but your environment's putting back almost as much as you detox. So it can be a long-term project, but certainly worth the effort.
I think a lot of times people think that supplements are bothering them or they're bad for them because they're used to taking a drug, and the drug just kind of dumbs down the issue, so they assume that made them better because they don't feel it anymore.
Yeah, I put duct tape over my oil light in my Tundra also.
But I think they expect that with the nutrition the same way, that if they take, a few days of it, they're going to feel miraculously well. And nutrition doesn't work that way. Nutrition is about healing the body from where it started and going backward. So it's got to sometimes go through some valleys,
right,
before you get to peaks, and it's a process.
And you still have good days and bad days anyway. We all have challenges, but have the courage to go through them.
I just can't tell you the difference in people that actually stick with it, and years later you see them come in here, and you guys don't get to see that because you don't get to see all the people we do that are not feeling well and talk to us about their health issues. But you'll see younger people come in, and then they may or may not stick with it. And then you'll see this older person that just looks great. I mean, they just look like they're full of life. And I'll ask them, what have you been doing? Oh, I've been doing nutrition for years. And you can always tell those people because they have the most energy, the most sparkle in their eye, the most pep in their step, because it was a long-term process. It wasn't just an overnight fix for them.
You have to work toward health, or you cannot do anything and wait till disease slaps you in the butt.
Right. So,
Did I say that?
I did. So that comes to my next deal of what people is another sign of the thyroid not being up to par with their hormones is feeling depressed or sad. Can be a symptom of hypothyroidism.
And not necessarily the only thing, but it's certainly something you should have your doctor, whoever that is, check out.
And when you say check out, many people say, well, my doctor has checked my thyroid, and they've told me it's fine.
If your doctor says you're fine and you don't feel fine, well, you've already heard me say that. Get a different opinion. You have to go where you have the faith. And I love all of our doctors. I've never seen one that wasn't good and have good integrity and good intent. But sometimes you need to get a different opinion.
Well, and many doctors run something called TSH on lab, which is your thyroid stimulating hormone. Many doctors, that is the only test they run on lab to check your thyroid. Well, that's actually the brain getting a signal. That's not true thyroid function. And when we tell you thyroid over and over, Dr. Lewis is very experienced at this, and we run 5 different parts of the thyroid when we run our lab. because we're checking to see your free T3, the T4, the T3 uptake, the TSH as well, but we're looking for where those numbers are optimal, not just in range. Because as America gets sicker and fatter as a nation, those ranges are getting larger.
Don't mess with my honey buns.
So we are trying to make that optimal. And when you get the thyroid optimal, then you start getting well. So
there was a young lady the other day about 100 miles away, and she says, well, I'm still having horrible hot flashes. And I said, well, your TSH, and this is because Janet said TSH, it was on the low side, which is where it should be, and then it went up to about a 2, which is still from about the middle range to the low side. And I said, I don't know, but I think maybe we should do a thyroid peroxidase test on you. And I said, it doesn't really look like you have Hashimoto's, but that's just a sneaking suspicion just because of that mild little blip in your chart of where your TSH is. Sure enough, her hot flashes at night turns out to be her Hashimoto's because she tested positive for that. And I said, well, then you have to look at your diet, because gluten in grains is one of the major causes of autoimmune diseases, including Hashimoto's thyroiditis. She said, I've noticed that when I eat incorrectly that the hot flashes are bad or worse. And she, very cooperative, but here's a young lady that's been consistent and letting us work through the process. And she said, but Dr. Lewis, I feel so good. Why would I quit? And I said, well, the real question is, why do you have the courage, and how can I instill that in other people? Really sweet lady.
And this lady had been to an endocrinologist who had not found it on lab. That's their job, is to be good at that, and they had not found that.
And it's a really good endocrinologist. Sometimes you need 2 or 3 opinions.
Right, so don't give up. So if you feel like in your gut that maybe you do have a thyroid problem, then you should probably listen to that. And if your doctor has run your thyroid, send it over to us. Let us take a look at it, and we do that for free, and we can tell you our opinion on it. And if you don't have a recent thyroid test, which we like to see them in the last 3 months, we can send you to your local lab. Across the United States, we use Quest. So if there's one close to you, that's where we send you. And they draw it and send it to us. And Dr. Lewis will call you himself and tell you what he's found on there. So don't feel miserable. There is hope. And that gets us out of feeling down, right?
Right.
Right, okay.
So, we live in a stress society, because in America we talk about it, and we have all the chemical and environmental stresses and things on our food. So that can deplete your adrenal glands, which puts out cortisol, which can be too high or too low. But the adrenal glands also put out DHEA, which is the precursor to your female hormones, or male if you're a male. And when they're depleted, they function very, very inadequately. And then the other endocrine glands become disrupted, and there's sort of a domino effect, so to speak. For those of you that know about that, I guess I'm showing my age. Then your immune system and your thymus gets involved, which thymus is about immune system, and most of your immune system's in your GI tract. That's why we mentioned that. So it's not just finding one specific thing. It's looking for many, many different things. That's the key. Balance is imperative, that you find balance and maintain that.
So we're looking for all the body as a whole, because it is all working together. And unfortunately, we're so used to going to one doctor for one problem, and then if it's a different problem, you get sent to a different doctor. Well, we're more of the thinking that your body is a whole, and we try to treat it as a whole instead of taking it apart and just treating the one thing, like Dr. Lewis was saying.
I always say with our lab, I throw a big net to find out what's out there and see how many fish I can catch. You don't want to specifically go after one tiny little fish. You want to throw out there and see what's going on, because one thing can contribute to the other thing in a good way or a bad way. So the things that can be affected, and we like to check the thyroid first, but we do check other things. It can affect your ovaries, the adrenal glands we talked about. It can affect your pancreas, which means if it's not working correctly, there goes your blood sugar going high, which increases problems or yeast growth in your GI tract. Your parathyroid, which has to do with calcium uptake and metabolism. The pineal we talked about for the melatonin production. And pituitary, which is incredibly complicated, and the hypothalamus, which is in your brain, just a big part of your nervous system.
Another sign that your thyroid may be messing with you and your hormones is that you feel jittery and anxious. Anxiety and feeling wired or are associated with hypothyroidism, where the thyroid gland's making too much thyroid hormone. So we've also seen that in our practice, that there's some doctors that are actually treating that TSH with thyroid, and then when we run their free T3, they're being overly stimulated. They've got too much thyroid, so they feel bad. And having too much thyroid is just as bad as not having enough thyroid. So you have the different symptoms, but still horrible, and weight gain with both.
And it's not that's... Well, most people need to give it time. You have to understand that these changes that are negative took place over the period of many months or years, and it takes quite a while to get the body's physiology back so that it can work correctly. So, give it time. I tell people, people will say, well, can I just take one thing? I told a guy this the other day, and he was in deep, deep trouble. He's 53 years old. I said, really, one thing? You want to go from Texas to Montana on vacation, and you won't put more than a quart of gas in your truck at a time. Throw it all in there. Your body's smart enough to sort it out, but it takes time, just like it takes about 9 months to make a baby. You can't get there in 6 weeks.
I think this one is a very interesting fact, is that your appetite or taste buds are altered with a thyroid problem. An increased appetite can be a sign of hyperthyroidism when too much thyroid hormones are there, and they may have you feeling hungry all the time. The only upside is that the hyper part of the disorder typically offsets the caloric impact of an increased appetite, so the end result isn't weight gain. So they can't taste their food very well, but they can eat a whole bunch of it. An underactive thyroid, on the other hand, can mess with your sense of taste and smell. So then you're still overweight and your food tastes horrible. So either way, it's not really great.
And the other thing is, and this is something that I have to dance around trying to be polite, people have to be realistic about what they're eating. Jen and I went on a cruise about a year ago, and I put on several pounds, and I knew exactly why I did, because I was eating too much and eating very incorrectly. That's on a cruise ship. What the heck? And, well, I didn't have the drive or the really want to get the pounds off. And it's not that I was just huge. I just gained 6-7 pounds. I think I was up to 187, 188, and I'm 5'10", if that makes a difference in how you're looking at this. And, well, I weighed this morning, and I was 173. And the waitress that we usually see almost every day, she said, Dr. Lewis, you're not eating enough. I want you to eat. I said, no, it's not like I'm wasting away. 173 looks good, but it looks better than 187, 188. But people need to get realistic. They eat too blooming much. And I know people that says, but I eat everything clean. We've had people, one lady in particular, a very sweet lady, says, I eat perfect food. And she does. She eats cleaner than Janet and I do. But she would tell people, you can eat as much as you want because it's good. And it's like, no, you can't. Success leaves clues in your life. So does failure, folks. So, don't be like the one woman that bowed up her fist and says, I eat good. No, you don't. And I said, you're eating too much fruit because you're high blood sugar. And she bowed up her fist and said, no, God made fruit. And I said, God made cyanide and arsenic and uranium and tapeworms, but you shouldn't put them in your body.
And fruit was something that was seasonal. Now we have it all the time, and people eat it all the time, and it's full of sugar.
And it's hybridized, so it's much, much more full of sugar than it was 100 years ago. So think about that.
Here's another sign of a thyroid problem. You've lost your interest in sex.
You've lost that loving feeling. That song's been written and sung very beautifully.
See, so it's not your fault. It could be your thyroid. You may have a thyroid disorder.
Probably because your husband don't shave and brush his teeth. You'll blame it on him, right?
And we can get your thyroid right, and then your sex drive will come back. Your skin is dry. That's a really good sign of a slow metabolism and too little thyroid, which can reduce your sweating. And skin without enough moisture can quickly become dry and flaky, just like your nails may become brittle or have deep ridges. That is a sign of a sluggish thyroid. So see, if you don't like being poked, you can look at your skin, you can look at your fingernails. If you've got ridges, you probably need some thyroid help.
Or if you have a lot of bumps on the back of your arms, up above your elbow towards your shoulder.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
a possibility.
Here's one of my favorite ones. Your bowels are unpredictable. I'm all about colon and trains moving through. Yep. Well, constipation is actually a sign of sluggish thyroid because you don't really have the bowel motility because of the thyroid is controlling that. So you don't, it slows down your digestive processes.
That's not a possibility, folks. That's a probability. There's always a difference.
Girls, your periods have changed. Longer menstrual periods with a heavier flow and more cramps can be a sign of hypothyroidism, where thyroid hormones are in short supply. Periods may be closer together even. So if you're getting strange periods, and young girls, teenage girls, we see this all the time with them now. And what do they try to give you? A pill to make it right. And then they have problems from that pill later on that we see on lab because they've built up all this bad estrogen in their body. There's actually a lot of girls that are on birth control pill, not because they're trying to prevent having a baby, but because they're trying to regulate their cycles. And because of all of the pesticides and pollutants, the thyroid is not working like it should, or the mother might have had one that was sluggish also, and it was passed down to the child.
Well, a lot of times that happens even before the baby's born. It's the stress hormones that the mother has, and it alters your fetal development. So it's very, very smart thing to do to get as healthy as you can before you get pregnant so that you actually alter genetic expression and have a healthier baby. And, we have a lot of people that do that all over the country that come to us to say, well, I want to be as healthy as I can be before I have a baby. And I said, well, give it several months, if not a year. Although if you're 39, we might not give it a year, might just jump on in there. But everything's an individual thing. There's not a cookie cutter approach, and that's why when I wrote the book, I'd say, well, there's not a cookie cutter approach. You have to consider this and this and this and this. And have some doctor that looks at you as a whole being and says, well, is it your adrenals? Is it your progesterone? And I had a young lady says, well, I don't want to take your progesterone cream because I'm young. And I said, yes, you're young, but you need to talk to your ovaries and your adrenals because they're not producing nearly enough progesterone for your body to function correctly. And, that's probably the estrogen mimicking
endocrine disruptors.
Yeah, plastics, pesticides. You get so many fire retardants, out of your mattress every night. So, it takes a while to clean up. So give it time, folks. What you put your faith in will carry you further than your knowledge. We're a nation of knowledge because of Dr. Google. But your faith actually has more power than your knowledge. And it's not what you know, it's what you do. Because faith without works is dead.
But, there's, the people that are listening out there that have young daughters, get them started now because we found out that young people that get started earlier take less products for a less period of time because it hasn't gotten so bad that it takes so long to correct it. The rule of thumb with nutrition is that it takes a minimum of 3 months to make changes to the body, and then it's a month for every year you've had the problem. So if you're older and listening, you're doing the math on that going, oh my gosh, you're looking at a year or 2 years before I feel great. But a young person isn't that way. They've not had that time to accumulate all of the side effects of not doing anything, and they can get well faster, and you can make a bigger, different impact on their life. We're doing that right now with our grandbaby. We're giving her fish oil every morning because it makes her so much smarter.
And probiotics.
Yes, it's starting them when they're young to get them a good basis for health and not the gummy stuff over the counter that you're getting at the big box stores. That's not doing them a favor, I promise you. But you guys, if you don't know where to start, and you have somebody that may be interested in getting help, go on our website. Go to naturalthyroidspecialist.com. Take a look there. The product that we're featuring today for the thyroid, that's something anyone can take, is Thyroid Build, because it's got great stuff in it. It's got a variety of different herbs and things that just make you feel better in all kinds of ways if you don't want to get your lab checked. We suggest you get your lab checked because we can be a whole lot more accurate with what to give you, and there's many things in the store we can't give you without seeing that. But we appreciate that you have chosen to listen to our podcast. Please share it with friends and family. Thank you for being a part of our Doctor's Nutrition success stories, and please pass this on. You guys have a great week, and we'll see you right here next time on the Doctor's Nutrition Show.